Good afternoon. Let me start by saying again that we pray for all of the victims of the Key Bridge collapse and also all of their families. Our state has been grieving for 3 weeks, but for these families, I know it has felt like an eternity, and we are praying for their eternal peace. Nuestro estado lleva 3 semanas de duelo, pero para estas familias lo han sentido como una eternidad. Estamos orando por su paz. I also want to recognize our first responders and all of our emergency personnel who have been working around the clock on this 24/7 mission. We thank you all. And today, I will provide updates on the 4 directives that I've issued to our team. The first, we need to give closure to these families. Second, we need to clear the channel and open vessel traffic to the port. Third, we need to take care of all of the people who have been affected by this crisis. And fourth, we need to and we will rebuild the Key Bridge. Now first, on providing closure to the families. You all know that Maryland State Police recently recovered one of the missing victims. And we hope that everyone will respect the request of the family for privacy during this difficult time. In this moment, our ask is simple. Let's not lose sight of our humanity. Because weeks ago, we lost 6 Marylanders. We lost 6 sons, brothers, fathers, and we will stop at nothing, and we will marshal all possible resources to make sure that we will help to support these families and give them peace. And I want to thank members of the Maryland State Police because they never lost sight of this mission. Even as our lift operations continue, bringing closure to these families remains a priority. And our Director of Immigrant Affairs, Adriana Lee, has been in direct and constant contact with all of the loved ones of the victims. She speaks to the families and their loved ones who are missing every single day. And Adriana, I just want to say, on behalf of all of us, thank you. Now, we currently have 30 members of state government who are assigned to helping these families in their hour of need, and that work will continue. Second, on clearing the federal channel and opening vessel traffic to the port, I want to put our progress in a sense of perspective. This operation started 3 weeks ago today, when we all woke up to realize that bridge had fallen. And in total, we have moved around 1,100 tons of steel. That 1,100 tons of steel is 5 times the weight of the Statue of Liberty. And through it all, we have not had a single injury on the job. 3 weeks, 1,110 tons of steel, no injuries. This is an absolutely remarkable achievement. And I want to commend Unified Command for working both efficiently and also safely. Because as Colonel Pinchason has pointed out, as we learned in our military training, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. We're on track to open a temporary 35-foot deep channel by the end of the month. And earlier today, I had another opportunity to go back out on the water with Unified Command and to watch preparations for a lift of Section 1B. Now, this is a major piece of the bridge that weighs around 300 tons. That 300 tons is about the same size as a Boeing 747. And you'll see here, so you see here, this is the piece that we're working on removing. And when you look at the size and the enormity of what it is in terms of the operation, you see it's imperative for us to be able to accomplish the larger mission by the end of this month, having that 35-foot channel opened, and then by the end of May, being able to have the full channel open. This here is actually one of the pieces that was blocking one of the core arteries that we have for it. If we can go on to the next slide, one of the amazing things is that this is the crane here that's doing the pull operation. That in order to prepare, you had to have personnel, and just for an understanding, we have over 370 people who are working on this operation. That's unified command. And if you look at the amount of assets that we now have in the water, currently as we speak, there are over 80 assets that we have in the water. That includes boats, cranes, the barges, etc. One of the assets is this right here. And this crane, which took days of preparation in order to prepare for that lift, you now see here the mass that got pulled out of the water. What's really important to remember about that is this. What you saw before, the majority of it was actually underwater. You still couldn't even see above water how large this piece of steel was. That shows the measure of complexity of this larger operation, and frankly, one of the main reasons why when we look at what Unified Command has pulled off and continues to execute, why this continues to be such a remarkable operation. This type of and this kind of complexity is unprecedented. And seeing the professionalism in the way that this team has moved has been absolutely extraordinary. So while we are excited to report this kind of momentum that you've seen here, the thing we also know is this: the road ahead is still long. There are still many lifts that will be performed. But the same type of caution, the same type of professionalism, the same type of certainty that this type of lift, that was needed for this type of lift, that is the same type of focus and the same type of expectation that will go into every single lift that takes place. Now, third, taking care of our people. On Friday, our administration launched a worker retention program through the Maryland Department of Labor. And the program is designed to help companies avoid layoffs in the wake of collapse. And as of this morning, we have already awarded grants through this program totaling $525,000. And these grants will help around 150 workers stay on the job. So if your business is at risk of laying off workers because of the Key Bridge collapse, we ask you to please visit labor.maryland.gov for more information. We are here to help. And last week, we also had the chance to launch a new website, a centralized state website that will serve as a central hub for Marylanders in search of federal and state and local support. So, if you're a business that has been affected by this crisis, our state is here to help you. If you're a worker who is struggling to make rent because of the collapse, our state is here to help you. If you're a commuter who wants to get updated on how we are responding to the traffic challenges, our state is here to help you. This type of centralized website is a central hub for you to get the information that you need and to show that our state collectively is here and has your back. So please go to response.maryland.gov/bridge to learn more. Response.maryland.gov/bridge to learn more. And I'm also happy to report that our 3 permanent Maryland resource centers have helped a combined 264 Marylanders since they have opened. The Small Business Administration has also approved loans totaling $1.6 million to Marylanders who have been affected by this crisis, and I want to thank the Biden-Harris administration for their support and their leadership in this effort. They have been with us since day one, and we are grateful. Now, fourth, on rebuilding the Key Bridge. Last week, our congressional delegation introduced bipartisan legislation in the House and the Senate to ensure the federal government covers the cost of the rebuilding. I visited Capitol Hill last week to speak with leaders of both parties to get it done. I'm going back again this week to speak with leaders from both parties, because you cannot have a fully functioning Port of Baltimore if the Key Bridge is missing. The Key Bridge is not about nostalgia. It's about necessity, and we need to take action now. So I assure you, we are going to also hold responsible parties accountable after a thorough investigation into the cause of the collapse that has concluded. Accountability is imperative in this moment. But to achieve all these goals, we've got to be able to work together. And while I know that many have grown cynical to the notion of bipartisanship, I'm confident in the ability of the U.S. Congress to come together in this moment. The reason I'm confident is because I've seen it happen here in Maryland. Because just today, we are joined by several state lawmakers, past and present, and all Republicans. When the Key Bridge fell, we received outreach from people all over the state who did not start with mentioning their political affiliation, who did not start talking about what party they represent, who just simply called up and raised their hand and say, how can we help? That's the power of this moment. They just simply said, how can we support and how can we serve? This is not a Republican crisis. This is not a Democratic crisis. This isn't only a Maryland crisis. This is a national crisis. And the solutions that we come to, they will not be partisan solutions. So just days ago, I signed the Port Act into law. That legislation is going to help people and businesses that have been affected by the collapse, and it is not lost on me that the Port Act was led by both Democrats and Republicans, and I'm honored to have one of the sponsors and the leaders of that bill here today, Senator Sailing, who sponsored legislation. Thank you. And Senator Sailing is a lifelong Republican, as he reminds me all the time. I'm grateful for your leadership, my friend. I want to thank you and thank all your colleagues. I want to thank the minority leader who ensured that we could get legislation through and know that party affiliation was not going to slow nor stall. And also, I'm grateful to be standing here with former Republican governor of Maryland, Bob Ehrlich, one of my predecessors. And I know the Key Bridge is deeply personal to him because it was his district in his time in the General Assembly that was affected. When he goes out and he takes a look at the collapsed Key Bridge, it's not foreign to him. As we go out and talk to the workers who are now impacted by this crisis, they are not foreign to him. As we go out and talk to the commuters who are now having to find ways to navigate around to go from where they live to where they work, to where they live to where they worship, to where they live to where they go to school, they are not foreign to him. As we're talking about all the truckers who now are not able to get from point A to point B, where the end point becomes the Port of Baltimore, none of them are foreign to him. And I'm so thankful that just a few days ago when I reached out to Governor Ehrlich and I asked him if he'd be willing to help, his answer was an emphatic yes. Governor, I appreciate you more than you know. Our state is going to be better because this is what it looks like to be Maryland tough and Baltimore strong. Our state's going to be better because collectively, the remarkable work of Unified Command, the remarkable work of local leaders, the remarkable work of federal delegation, the remarkable work of our General Assembly, both Democrats and Republicans, that this is a moment when people step up and said, mission first, people always. So, the thing that I ask the members of Congress is this. Please pay attention to what we're seeing up here. Please pay attention to today. We will be spending the next days going to Capitol Hill, and we will be meeting with any and every member of Congress, all 535 if we need to. And the ask is just simply going to be, the ask is simple. We're going to give you an invitation. I ask you to come to Maryland. I ask you to come up time and spend some time with our congressional delegation. I ask you to come spend time with members of the General Assembly. I ask you to come spend some time with me. I ask you to come spend time with members of our team. I ask you to get on the water, and I ask you to see it firsthand. I ask you to get a clear understanding of what it means to see a ship that is the size of the Eiffel Tower, that is the weight of the Washington Monument, that's sitting in the middle of the Patapsco River with tens of thousands of tons of steel either sitting on it or sitting in the bottom of the river. Come see it for yourself. And we've already had members of Congress going from Florida to Washington show up to see the wreckage. And we want to keep on inviting more. We are ready and we're willing to work with anyone and everyone to get this done, because that is the only way forward. So in a moment, I will turn it over to Governor Bob Ehrlich, and also following him, we are joined by Admiral Watson for Unified Command, Maryland State Senator Johnny Ray Salem, and Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott. And I want to thank all of our partners for their tireless work in making sure that we get this right. So, Governor Ehrlich, thank you so much.
Well, first things first, I appreciate the outreach from the Gov here. Thanks for the briefing. Thanks for the leadership. Thanks for your compassion. Thanks for everything. I bring a bulletin from Congressman Harris as well, who could not be here today. He sends his regards, regrets, and tells me, as he's told you privately, he's with the program, big time. So I'm going to be very brief. I suspect I'm here not just as a former governor, but as a former member who represented Dundalk, a place I love. Dundalk 4th of July Parade.
That's right.
Doesn't get better. Doesn't get better. So I awakened today with three real quick thoughts, real quick. First was I had to think of William Donald Schaefer. I had to think of Governor Schaefer today, because I guarantee you he's up there looking down at us with a clenched fist telling us to get it done, to you and to me and to all of us, everyone, just get it done. The person who woke up every day thinking about people first and serving people, which is really the bottom line to this profession. The second person I thought of was, who else? Helen Delis Bentley, who's also shaking a fist at us and probably saying some other words that we know well. How interesting that we were able to, with the support of folks in this room, especially you as well, getting that port renamed for her during this time. And her admonition to us is, take care of my people, take care of my port. Again, exactly the same. One Democrat, one Republican with the same message. Take care of us, take care of Maryland. And then the third thought real quickly was Team Maryland. And it's not a cliche, and the governor is absolutely correct. People are very cynical for good reason these days about politics, we get it. But the Team Maryland thing is not stuff you hear. It's real. And I lived it as a member of the House of Delegates, but I really lived it as a member of the House of Representatives and as governor. Because when things were tough, Maryland came together. BRAC, the base closing initiative, every state had to come together. Republicans, Democrats came together in Maryland, and it worked out pretty well for our state. It sure did. And then, obviously, natural disasters, hurricanes and floods, Team Maryland came together always. What can we do? How can we help? Who do we need to talk to? And of course, this is a man-made disaster. So everybody here understands the impact of this tragedy, and I've seen very little cynicism out there, and I hope there's none. Skeptical, fine. We have to produce, we know that as state. But we have excellent people here, excellent professionals. I want to join your message in that regard as well, and thanking everybody who wears a uniform, who protects us, saves lives. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We understand the impact of this tragedy with respect to the loss of lives, with respect to the loss of business, with respect to the loss of income, and really the challenge to our identity. Our identity is our port. We're a port city. So I can assure everyone, both sides of the aisle, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. We're working together to get Team Maryland back up and running as quickly as possible. And I appreciate your attention here today. Thanks, Gov.
Thank you, Governor, and Governor Ehrlich as well. Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I want to first begin by extending our heartfelt condolences to the families, friends, the loved ones of all those that were lost. The Unified Command, for its part, continues its work daily to support this great community, this great state, and our country by working diligently to restore navigation, to restore the flow of commerce within this vital port. In so doing, we remain focused on several key priorities. One, we're focused on reopening the deep draft navigation channel. Colonel Pinchason has been doing a great job, a remarkable job, detailing those efforts. Thank you. For my part, I'd just like to highlight that on this past Sunday, we were able to remove a large segment of the bridge, a previously submerged segment of the bridge that weighed over 400 plus tons. And as you heard the governor allude to, we are actively removing yet another submerged segment of the bridge. Our team is doing tremendous work. And so we remain on schedule. Another key priority is removing the ship. We continue to remove containers and debris from the bow of the ship, which will allow us ready access to a portion of the bridge that is lodged against the bow of the ship. Removing this piece will be critical to refloating and removing the ship, and we continue to make good progress in so doing. And then finally, we are removing the remaining bridge debris from the waterway, and the state continues to make great progress in this regard. This is challenging and complex work, as you know, and the Unified Command team has been tremendous. But I want to especially call out the Baltimoreans and the Marylanders that are the nucleus of this team. Without their dedicated effort and commitment, this team would not go. It would not work as smoothly and as effectively as it has. We often refer to the Unified Command, and when we talk about this structured network of people and professionals doing this great work, but I think it's good for us to remember that at the heart of it all is people that live and work here. And we are particularly proud to be a part of this team, and we are particularly proud to be working with these folks that live and work here who are vested in the team's success, particularly vested. So we just want to say thanks to the city of Baltimore, to the state of Maryland and its leadership for the continued and outstanding teamwork. We're going to keep focused on getting the job done. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Senator Johnny Allen. I'm the district senator in Dundalk and Essex. And first and foremost, I want to thank the governor, Governor West, and Lieutenant Governor Moore for this opportunity to speak. I'm not here speaking alone. We have other delegates, we have leaders and senators that are here as well. We have great leaders because we see the importance of what's going on right now. Just to let you know, this affects me in such a personal way. I worked at Bethlehem Steel for 26 years as a steel worker. I have family that work at the Port of Baltimore. I have other friends that I know that I've known for a very long time, and it's affected them greatly. But at the same time, we've lost lives, as the governor and others have said. And our prayers are with them and their families. I've had a brief opportunity just to speak with them with an interpreter, and I thank that opportunity. But I want to say, more than anything, that we're there for them. When we had the bill, Senate Bill 1188, for the Port Act, the leadership rose up to the occasion. And they did exactly what they needed to do. They spoke for the people. They did and they act for the people. They just didn't do it just for their actions, but they did it for the deed. It was the right deed to do. Now, the workers, they will get not just unemployment, but they will get more pay to help them out for their bills, for their house payments, for groceries. We also are going to help those that have lost. I want to thank the Oak Lawn Cemetery for reaching out to us and telling us that they have plots for those that are lost. I also want to talk about those nonprofits that are out there that are helping out as well. They have been a blessing. I want to thank them as well. But I just want everybody to realize one thing. This just doesn't affect just Baltimore or Dundalk in my area or Maryland. It affects Chicago. It affects Detroit. It affects Florida and other states. This is a central location of the deport that a lot of places wish they had. But we have something great here, and we haven't lost sight. I just want you to know, we are here as leaders, but working with a Democratic governor and a Republican senator and Republican leaders, and we're here for one reason. We're here for you, people. So we pray for you. We are here for you. Whatever we can do, we have a number in Annapolis. We want you to call your leaders there. We are stepping up, and we are going to do all that we can. And my prayer is that God will bless you and keep you safe, and give you exactly what you need. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Governor, and God bless you. Thank you, sir. Now we'll have the mayor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor, and Lieutenant Governor, senators and delegates, and thank you all for being here and continuing to bring attention to this work as our city, state, region, and country continue to overcome the impact. Yesterday, we always know, I start off by saying, of course, that our first and most important thoughts are going to be with those families and the prayers for them as we will continue to uplift them. A Marylander was brought home to their family who have been waiting for 3 weeks to be able to start closure and healing. The city of Baltimore grieves with them, and we will forever continue to support them, work with them, and aid them in whichever way we can as they grapple with this huge loss that they have suffered. This recovery will bring a great deal of comfort to them, but we all know that that pain and grief will continue to weigh heavy on that family and our entire community, but them most specifically for the rest of their lives. And there remain 2 families still waiting for their loved ones to come home. I know that every member of the best unified command team that I ever have seen at the state level, local level, federal level, and my counterparts in Baltimore County and Anne Arundel County is determined to make sure that every single family gets this closure, and will do everything in our collective power to ensure that that happens. And you can see that we are continuing to support these families directly and indirectly. The fund, Mr. Governor, that was set up by the Mayor's Office of Government Affairs, or MEMA, has now reached more than $650,000 into it. These funds are available to the families to cover immediate needs. MEMA continues to work alongside the Governor's Office, Baltimore County, Catholic Charities, Esperanza Center, and CASA to provide case management, and immigration legal services to the families. I want to take this opportunity to thank those nonprofits for their partnership and commitment to supporting the victims, families, and survivors. I will also note that our efforts to support workers and businesses impacted will continue. Yesterday, the applications for the wage subsidy program being conducted by the Mayor's Office of Employment Development opened. Businesses can now apply at MOED's website at oedworks.com or contact wage subsidy at baltimorecity.gov via email for assistance. Our commitment to this effort is not and will never waver. We are committed to this effort for as long as it takes to rebuild our city stronger than before and until that bridge is rebuilt. We will continue to be resilient, and I want to thank every single person, business, nonprofit, and partner across the city and the state and the country who has helped and remains committed to helping doing this work. I also want to continue to thank the partners and the leader of Unified Command and Governor Moore, our fabulous congressional delegation, and all of our counterparts in local government. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that you hear me say all of our counterparts, not our Democratic counterparts, not our independent counterparts, not just our Republican counterparts, all of us, because a tragedy of this magnitude never was and never will be, as long as there's breath in our bodies, to be about party politics. This is about the lives lost, the impact that is being had to Baltimore, to Maryland, to this country, to the world. And we all have a duty to work together to make sure that we rebuild Baltimore back better and stronger. Thank you very much, Mr. Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Governor, do you have any response to the FBI investigation or have any additional information about what they're looking for?
No, the FBI is conducting an independent law enforcement activity right now. We were in close touch with them prior in terms of the notification that they would be boarding the vessel. We are going to be working in full partnership, and we'll provide them any assets or supports that they need during the investigation. But we also know it is an independent law enforcement case at this point.
Any other questions? I do, yes. Okay. And then as far as the containers, how many have been lifted off and how many more do you have to go?
So we now have 40 containers that have been lifted off. We know right now that there are still more to go, but part of the question becomes the weighing of the vessel. As we are continuing the operation, part of the reason for the lifting of the containers off of the vessel is because it's for the eventual refloating that will take place. And so right now, while we have 40 of the containers that have been removed from the vessel, we know that the operation of continuing to analyze and then continue to reanalyze where we are will continue until we have the vessel refloated.
Hi, Paul Gessler with CBS Baltimore. Perhaps a question for the Rear Admiral. Is there a procedure for when a body is found, what happens next, and do you have any indication where those remaining victims may be based on where the other victims were located?
I'll take your question kind of out of order if that's okay with you. There's no way to tell where the remains of the remaining victims are. As far as procedure goes, when the salvagers come across anything even remotely close to a vehicle or human remains, they stop. At that point, they make sure the scene is safe, everything is shored up, then they contact the MSP Underwater Recovery Team. We keep 10 divers on standby to go out and do what's necessary. Over the weekend, that works seamlessly. And as quickly as they do what they need to do, we're right back to salvage operations. So there is a credible level of communication and coordination going on there.
This might be a question for Mayor Brandon Scott, but for the money that has been raised for the families, have those families begun receiving that money yet? And if so, in what way?
So I think I'll just say that the families know how they can receive those funds and what they can receive those funds for. But as we said earlier, what I think we have to avoid is talking about exactly how other families are receiving those funds and what they're doing it for at this time. We want them to be able to pull down those funds and do what the things that they may need to do, which may be anything from food that they need to eat, bills they need to pay, funeral costs. But we have to be respectful of their privacy and allow them to do that. But we'll make sure, and there'll be accounting measures to make sure that every dollar that's going exactly to the people who it's supposed to go to, and that's them.
Maybe I missed this, but you said 40 containers have been lifted. How many are left?
Well, there were 4,000 containers that were on the Dolly when the Dolly began its initial embarkment. But there won't be a need to remove every single container before refloating the vessel. The whole point of removing of the containers now, and again, the containers when they're empty can range from upwards of 1.5 to 2 tons each container. And the Dolly had 4,000 of them on it. So there will be no need to remove every single container from the Dolly. The point is removing enough that as we remove the truss from the Dolly, and then you can have a refloating of the vessel, that you can then do that safely.
Thank you.
All right, there's no more questions. We are done. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all.